It's time now for This Is Life with Rob McGowan. How we live always changes the world around us.
Like a bird on a tree.
Well, it's time for This Is Life, and we got the one, the only, Sam Johnston is coming on. How are you today, Sam?
Hi, Rob. How you doing, buddy? It's great to be here with you on Life Radio, the radio station on the river that inspires and gives hopeful messages to all Marmashers.
Well, I appreciate that. We try anyway. Make a difference every day. So you're running for council. What made you decide to do that?
Well, Rob, that's an interesting question. Sometimes a person doesn't know what they have until they lose it. And my wife and I moved to Moncton with a career move for me, and it was a big adjustment for us. And we lived down in Moncton for about 5 years, and it was a nice community. It was a bigger place, and people could say it offered more different types of restaurants and theater and all that kind of stuff. But I tell you, when you don't have Miramichi, when you grow up here, you sure do miss it. And it's kind of reminds me of the time when I was ill, and the little things mattered. Being able to breathe clearly and get up and go for a little wee walk or something. And I got to say, Rob, when I moved back to this river, my heart was filled with joy, and so was Sharon's. We were home, and I was born here. I lived here, and now I'm going to die here. I'm never leaving again.
Oh, that's awesome. So are you a fisherman? Were you out for the first day of fishing yesterday, or probably busy running around with council and work and everything?
I've been so busy campaigning that I haven't had a chance to get out fishing. But I tell you, my rod's ready to go, and I sure do enjoy the fishing, the bass fishing. It's great for our area. And, it's just one of the many things that Miramichi has to offer as a unique community here. I was out campaigning in Nelson the other day, and I looked out over the river. It's just absolutely beautiful. And, I think Miramichiers, they want a prosperous, safe community to live in, inspired by hope and confidence. And if I can be a catalyst for that positive change and a leader to be their voice at the council table, then that's my mission moving forward as a city councilor in Miramichi.
That's your mission. That's awesome. Well, that was going to be my first question. I have this list I ask all the councilors. That was going to be my first question. What's your mission? Well, that's a good mission for sure. What sets you apart, though, from all the other councilors? What makes you special for Miramichiers? What should they know going into the polls? I'm going to vote for Sam because of this.
Well, that's a good question, Rob. And I'll preface that with the fact that anyone that steps up into public life has my unconditional, unequivocal respect, because it's not easy. And although stepping into public life has rewarding moments, you can help people, it also puts people under a lot of scrutiny, and it can be stressful at times. So before I respond to that, I just want to say thank you to the other candidates. There's 15 of us running for council, and all the best to them. And thank you for stepping up to represent your community. What sets me apart is, I think, a couple of things. First of all, I've had a very extensive work experience as a senior manager and an executive manager. I'm used to dealing with large budgets. I'm used to negotiating and mediating with labor bodies. The other thing is, I'm a national crisis management trainer. So I've been through a lot of different crises in my professional career. And as you know, my personal life with having had leukemia. And one of the lessons I've learned from that is crisis doesn't necessarily develop character, it reveals it. And my character has been revealed different times, and the people of Miramichi can count on that. I also have an extensive academic background. I have 2 undergraduate degrees and a master's degree in counseling psychology, counseling human development. And I've worked hard at that, and I've worked hard at my professional career as well. I'm a lifelong martial artist, and I've gone on, despite having been sick, to win a world championship in Seoul, South Korea at the World Hangwadong Championships. So I've got a few unique things about me and characteristics that I can bring to the council table, and I look forward to being a voice on behalf of the citizens of Miramichi.
Well, it doesn't sound like you're a lazy guy, Sam.
Well,
sounds like you like to keep
busy. Has never been my problem. And I tell you, hard work and determination will beat talent when talent doesn't work hard. So you know what? If you got a bit of both, success is ensured, if you've got perseverance, indomitable fighting spirit, and discipline in your professional and personal life.
That's awesome. Well, as counselor, you're going to come across a lot of economic things. Do you have an idea of where you want to go economically with the city, what you want to do, what your take is on it?
You know, my take on the economy, Rob, is that economic prosperity, the infusion of provincial and federal dollars into our community, as well as private industry, is directly tied to our infrastructure as a community. Miramichi has to be equivalent to those other areas of the province, particularly the southern part of the province. We have to have a competitive edge to be able to attract business and infusion of money into our community. And infrastructure is directly tied to that. So we also need people. Our city, did you know that in 1995, with the inception of Miramichi, we had well over 20,000 people. And now in 2021, we're just over 17. But there's hope. New folks are coming to Miramichi with diversity, new ideas, a new corporate memory and intelligence and skills to invest in our community, and money to go with it. And we want them. Miramichi's open for business. So right off the bat, whether it's by road, water, or air, Miramichi needs to be up to par infrastructure-wise. Just because we have a one-lane bridge doesn't mean we're a one-horse town. We're getting a new bridge in the near future, and Miramichi is developing its infrastructure in terms of the King George Highway, and I'm supportive of a northern bypass so that people trucking through to the capital of the province and go by, but people wanting to do business can step right in to Douglastown, Nordine, or Newcastle on the north side of the river and buy whatever it is they're going to buy from our local businesses. The other thing is, in order to attract people, we need to have infrastructure that's exciting, that's innovative. And I have a couple of thoughts on that, Rob. The first of it, which is, why not have a bike trail throughout our city? Did you know there's federal monies available to invest in our community, to get a bike trail in our community? So the folks who are into fitness and green travel can go about our city on their bicycles and get to work for recreation. It's an attractive attribute for young families. The other thing is, and I've already mentioned it, the beauty, the aesthetics of our river. It's unparalleled. I've traveled the world. I have never, in the spring when the ice flows out, I've never seen anything as beautiful as the crystal gaze of the Miramichi River, the mighty Miramichi. We could have pathways around our river with wee trails up to the businesses. So if people were interested in a business, they could walk, 50, 60 meters and tap into a business. They have that in Moncton through Dieppe. It's worked out amazingly well. It attracts tourists. Just think if we dredged our river and we had small and medium-sized cruise ships pull into Waterford Green, pull into Ritchie Wharf. Look at St. John. St. John was the foggiest, depressing old spot downtown. And now, well, not with COVID, but post-COVID and pre-COVID, they had people from all over the world investing in their downtown. And now it's quite aesthetic and beautiful. Miramichi has 2 downtowns. We can double that. So let's get at her. Let's get those cruise ships up this river.
Well, that sounds like a really good plan. But, when you grow, if we grow as great as you're saying and we are growing now, we need to know, there's some of the dreadfalls come along with that, drug addiction and all the things. What are you going to do to deal with, as people go up, some go down, and we have problems, that we come along hand in hand. So how do you intend to deal with that kind of stuff?
That is a sage observation, Rob, and it does break my heart, having been involved with empowering youth on the inside and the outside through my martial arts classes for over 40 years, to see drug addiction become a scourge in our little slice of heaven here in Miramichi. And I am well prepared to take that problem and challenge on. I have never backed down from a challenge in my life, and I'm not going to back down from the challenge of drug addiction and addictions in our community. First of which, I have a lot of experience. Number one, academically, as I've stated, I have a graduate degree in counseling and human development, and I've studied addictions and studied the therapeutic interventions that are effective in addressing addiction problems. Secondly, through my professional life, I have been a senior manager at the executive level and senior management level, and I've had to deal with drug addiction issues for a number of years. So I'm no stranger to facing the challenge of drug addiction and the havoc it can wreak in one's life. Now, I believe, well, I know through experience and through study that the most efficient way to deal with addiction is by having an iron fist in the velvet glove. We have to balance out psychotherapeutic interventions with accountability and enforcement. Now, if we have one, we need the other. No matter how flat the pancake, there's always two sides. And people have to realize that addictions, they're systemic issues, oftentimes with the victim of addictions. And I say victim because it often originates in folks' childhood from trauma. That it's a sad thing when somebody doesn't want to be in their general sphere of orientation with some semblance of normalcy and have to alter their reality because they've had so much trauma in their life. And that's why we need the psychotherapeutic interventions in order to help them. Now, in Miramichi, we have, the opioid replacement treatment. We have methadone and Suboxone. We have a mobile crisis unit. We have excellent community policing with Miramichi's finest, and they work hand in hand from a multidisciplinary perspective with our hospital and mental health staff. We're doing a great job. But one of the things we don't have that we desperately need on this river are long-term psychotherapeutic beds to treat addictions so families can have their loved ones stay right here in the river when they're getting their treatment. In fact, from my perspective as a province, we're weak on that. We have 12 beds in St. John. I believe it's the Lone Water Care Center down in St. John, and we have 12 beds in Campbellton. And that's great. 24 long-term care beds for addictions in New Brunswick. We could fill those just here in our own little city. We're a halfway point in between Campbellton and St. John. And I'd like to see long-term care beds for addictions right here in Miramichi. We do have 10 detox beds, but they're temporary and voluntary. They're not cutting it. They're not getting the job done. Families need support with addictions here in the river. And Sam Johnston, as their city councilor, as their voice, will advocate for it.
Awesome. Well, there's one question comes up a lot, and I'm not sure where you stand on it, but this goes back sort of the economic stuff, but what's your position on things like the multiplex? Do you have an idea about where you stand on that?
Hasn't that political can been kicked down the road for a while, Rob? Well, I think I'm going to hold the record for having the longest campaign in municipal political history, because I started my campaign earlier last year before the election was canceled. And frankly, I never stopped. Hard work is a virtue, and I'm not afraid of hard work and standing up for the folks in my community. And that's what motivated me to get involved in the first place. I have a defined benefit pension and a good job. I don't need money. I don't need a medical plan. I'm doing this for the right reasons. I have a passionate desire to help Miramichi families and to bring Miramichi into the future, because the future's now. And part of that future that we have to realize right now is having leisure activities and recreational facilities that are up to par and modern so that we can attract new people and keep folks that are here engaged in a healthy lifestyle. As you know, Rob, I've been involved in physical culture my whole life. It's a big part of my life and it's important to me. But I do think that we have to proceed on the multiplex in very prudent fashion. There is a bit of a feeling out there amongst Miramichiers from all parts of this city that the cart was put a wee bit before the horse, if you will. Major purchase of property was made. Further monies were infused into that property afterwards, and upwards of $1 million is budgeted to invest in that property in 2021. There's also been talk of tearing down existing infrastructure or getting rid of it, however you want to term it, like the Linden Rec Center. Well, I'm not in favor of tearing down anything. And I'm not in favor, I'd say penny, but they don't exist anymore, of spending one more nickel until we know that the provincial government and the federal government are both on board with this multiplex for our city. Now, there's been recent developments that said there's a new integrated bilateral agreement and that agreement is going to see the municipal portion of that money and the federal portion of that money directed towards the multiplex. The problem is we're missing a third of it. We're missing the provincial piece. We need that. Now, the provincial government has been quite clear in coming out what they wanted, they're demanding from the city of Miramichi, and that they want to see perhaps a phase down project and a gradual implementation process in terms of building it. Well, here's the kicker. Miramichiers might be able to absorb a 3% tax increase, which would be the price for pizza over the year. That was the PR piece that was sold to Miramichiers when this first came out. But they can't afford a fancy, 5-course meal and having a multiplex, especially when the mean income of this community is about $57,000 a year for a family, not to mention the fact that many folks in this community are seniors and on fixed incomes. How can people invest massive amounts of their tax dollars in a multiplex when there was 300 people on a waiting list for subsidized housing not long ago and a 1% vacancy rate in Miramichi for a warm place, safe place to live? So it's common sense to me, Rob. My position on the multiplex is clear. Until we have the federal and provincial dollars to support the citizens of Miramichi to take that tax burden off of their backs, I will not support the multiplex. We need that money. Now, I'm supportive in theory. I'm not against the multiplex, because here's the other thing that folks have to be cognizant of. In terms of economies of scale, and what that means is, how are things going to work out in the long run with recreational facilities in our fine little city? The multiplex actually makes sense, because folks, they'd roll over if they knew how much it took to heat the Golden Hawk in wintertime. I know, I've been there teaching classes for upwards of 20 years. I was the first activity in there, and I'll probably be the last to leave. It's an antiquated facility. It's massive. It's not efficient for modern standards, and it could be replaced. But we can't rob Peter to pay Paul. We need the money. Show me the money, Rob. We need the money in place to pay for that multiplex before we move forward on a $62 million file that will see Miramichiers taxed to the gills. I don't want it if it's going to be unreasonable in terms of tax dollars. I do want it if folks will come to the table and give us a fair deal, and we'll pay our fair share, but it has to be indeed our fair share.
That's awesome. Well, this might seem like an odd question for a political campaign, but in my sense of things, it's important to me and people that listen to this station, and I think in general should be important where our morals come from and stuff. How does faith play a role in your life, and when you're going to make decisions and stuff like that? How would you describe your faith and how it helps out?
Well, it's like the Franciscan monks said, "Give me a child till he's 7, you've given me him for life." I grew up in a strict Catholic household, and faith was a big part of my life growing up, and it's a big part of my life now. I'm proud of my faith. I'm proud to practice my faith. I believe that anyone that has faith and religion in their life, regardless of a denomination or the faith tradition, has a great asset in their life. And I can tell you, Rob, sincerely from my heart, that when I was ill, when I was laying in the bone marrow unit in Halifax, and I couldn't move anything but my head, and I was in terrible pain, psychologically and physically, and I was told by my oncologist that there was no hope, I had faith. I relied on faith, and I had a pastor there that would come and pray with me. There was a native elder that would come and pray for me, and there was people of different faith traditions that were kind to me and that showed me love, that would visit me in my hospital bed in my airtight room, and they had to wear gloves and a dress and a mask because I was so sick and vulnerable. It's at those dark, dark moments in life that you truly realize you're not alone, that there is a God. And one of the things that in my faith tradition that I learned through that dramatic experience is that, you know, when it comes to God, the darkest hour is just before dawn. But if you have faith, if you have belief in self and faith in God, then the sun's going to come up for you. And regardless of your situation, there's always hope through faith.
That's awesome, Sam. Well, I want to thank you for coming in today. And, well, not coming in with COVID. We all do these things over Zoom and different ways. But in closing, is there any one last thing you sort of want to say out to the community, you know, that you're running for council, and just a closing statement, maybe something that why we should vote for Sam?
Well, you know, Rob, I've given this a lot of thought, and folks ask me, Sammy, why are you working so hard on this council campaign? I mean, you're running for municipal council. Why are you're putting so much effort into it? And I'll say this. My desire to run for city council is to be a voice for those families in need in this river. I will stand with those families. I will stand by those families, and I will speak for them at the council table after May the 10th. On May the 10th, for positive inspiration and hope moving Miramichi forward, for value for tax dollar and for common sense decision making, vote Sam Johnston to be your city councilor.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming in, Sam. I wish you the best of luck. I know you personally over the years, and you're a great guy. So I want to thank you for taking some time with us today and letting us know your story about why you're running for council.
And I want to thank you, Rob, for all that you do to inspire Miramichiers and to give them hope. And juste un petit message en français envers tous les francophones dans la région de Miramichi. Je suis ici pour vous aussi. I'm here for all my French friends. I'm here for all my Mi'kmaq friends. You know what? Miramichi is an inclusive community, and I want to represent everyone. I want to be a voice for everyone, and I want to try my best to put the mighty back in Miramichi.
Oh, that's awesome. I want to close, but now that just kind of opened up my mind to something. I was talking with a friend the other day, and we were talking about the indigenous people around. And remember, we used to have they had that big thing in Chatham where they had the powwow where the cities came together.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And now they're kind of like spread out on, you know, the reserves and stuff, and you got to go out to them. I thought that was one of the most amazing things to sort of get the communities together.
Unbelievable.
I'd like to see something like that come back.
You know, I've worked on several First Nations now over the years. I was a teacher in Elsipogtok. I'm now doing a martial arts program in Atigiog. And if folks only knew the wisdom and the beauty of the Mi'kmaq culture, they would want to learn more. They have so many gifts to share with the greater community. And I think that's a great idea, Rob. And I'd like to have that back in place. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, for sure. We need to bring more stuff together. That's awesome. Well, Sam, I know you're a busy guy. You got to get out there and get knocking on doors and doing what you got to do, plus work your job at the same time. So thanks again for coming in. There's our key. Somebody's ringing in saying, Rob, you got to go. Thanks again.
Thank you, Rob. Always a pleasure, my friend. God bless.
Like a bird on a tree,